Stefano Secchi. This is Christina Caruana. We are obsessed with Italian and everything Italian related, and Italian food, hospitality, all the above. We've had Resdora for 5 years, and we just opened Massara. We've been around for about a month and a half now.
We were talking about the idea of necessity as a new operator. Tell me about that concept.
We, are just thrilled to be here. New York City is such a, the food mecca of the world. So we're just thrilled to have a second property. We've had great success so far, great press. Out of necessity, I think, everybody needs to eat. Everybody needs a good place to come and gather and have a good time. And we just want to welcome New Yorkers and into our home and provide an experience.
And you talked too about, you don't have financial backing here per se, traditionally.
Most of it's been kind of bootstrapped since the beginning, right? And I think that to the previous question about necessity, we've now kind of brought on people that run both properties in terms of like the beverage side, the wine side, and then Christina's director of operations. That's been super important because we were trying to find a way to have like one voice, right? Because every time you have two different spaces, one person thinks one way, one person thinks another way, and like how do you bring everyone together and have like this kind of like symbiotic relationship with the two spaces together? There's been restaurant groups that have approached us and said, listen, we want to do something with you guys. Here's what we could offer. Let's just do something all over the country, and that just doesn't interest us. That's always been most important is like what kind of story can you tell if you're going to open a place, not just open a place to quote unquote fill the coffers, right? It's always been super important about the kind of story that you can tell behind whatever type of dishes you're putting out or whatever type of ambiance you're trying to create.
You've spent most of your career in Europe, so coming to New York, there's a little bit of competition, right?
To be surrounded with those types of people is the most exciting thing in the world. You walk into a space and you have people that are really driven to really make and execute an amazing experience. I just don't think there's anything better. And you find it mostly in New York, the best work here.
You were saying though, when you opened Resdora, you didn't have an experience of people knocking on your door though, to work for you.
Well, we work together. No one really works for me. So it's kind of like I'm here all the time. I'm not an absentee chef. I sit in front of the computer and point, right? It's always like I'm going to go taste this dish now that we're putting on the menu. I have to go over to Resdora for a meeting later. But yeah, no one wanted to work with us. It sucked, to be honest. I'm trying to think of a better word of putting it. But we would put up ads on culinary agents and we have like 2 or 3 people come in. So, things changed after a few years, which has been great.
And Christina, chef, has said that you're sort of the pragmatic person in the organization. You bring a level of compassion. Like, how do you balance those two things?
I think that we lead with compassion. I think having a good amount of self-awareness is really important in what we do. Emotional intelligence plays a big role because we want to make sure that we are leaders that people want to work for, provide a culture that's stimulating and challenging, but also lucrative for our staff and our team. I think it's important to be reasonable and decisive as a leader, but also, fair. And making sure that you're thinking of your team in all senses. And I think that we do that really well. Mm-hmm. If that means closing down twice a year for like a staff appreciation day, we have a lot of fun doing that. It's really important for us to have a really cohesive relationship between front and back of house. Leading with compassion is just, putting yourself in your team's shoes and making sure that everybody is feeling good about going into service and making sure that everybody's set up for success.
And you just mentioned something so important that's sort of elusive at a lot of restaurants is that communication between front and back of house. Like, how do you do that?
We try to keep up to date with each other. We try to have weekly meetings. It's been great. We've been very blessed to have like a new team that's really getting along well. But it really starts at the top with David and Stefano, kind of creating that familial culture. And we just try to emulate that all the way down to our team. When we have new hires, they sit down with chef for like 30 minutes, ask questions and get to know, and we go over culture and what's really important to us as a company and organization.
Yeah, and you mentioned the idea of being a commercial venture, but also having room for artistry. So how do you maintain that balance?
We have chefs that come in that either they're sous chefs and they want to take a step back and work on the line again, but they also want to be super creative, so they'll put up dishes. In the end of the day, you still have to have people enjoy what they have, right? They have to enjoy what they're eating because people aren't going to be spending, $35, $40 for a secondi, for instance.
And then tell us just for a moment about the names. So I learned a little bit about Resdora and a little bit about Massara, but I'd love to hear it from your perspective.
From my perspective, Christina and I have always, and David have always talked about how le nonne or the nonnas in Italia were the ones that have always pushed our cuisine forward, right? And so we've always wanted to give respect to them. So Resdora in dialetto emiliana, in Emilia-Romagna dialect, is head of the household, which is usually a nonna that rolls pasta al mattarello. A lady by the name of Laura Morendi in Modena who taught me how to roll mattarello, and she was very tough, but also amazing. So she changed my life. And so it's kind of to give homage to her. And then Massara is the same thing, but in Campania dialect. It's very cool. Yeah.